So speaking of other mathematicians, summarize as we need to think about what we're doing. Okay. But then what if you've done that, but there's still all these pesky institutions around? You're having trouble getting the word to you. Your managers are still heaping heaps of pressure on you, heads of companies, entities in government, legislators, regulators, all these people. What if they're still heaping problems onto you and you can't solve just within the mathematical community? Well, you need to go upstairs. Level 3 is taking a seat at the tables of power. And now we're going into all sorts of uncharted territory here. Mathematicians actively looking for ways to take seats of power in order to use their mathematical understanding to ensure that it's used responsibly, that it's used without causing harm, that it's understood as to how it's being used, and that they can somehow temper and control what's going on upstairs. We don't just put things in a box, seal it, and send it up the chute. This gets really tough. To go up to a managerial level, to present the benefits and limitations of the math being used. How many people here have sat at a table where everyone else is wearing a suit? Not including a dinner. An actual table where you're working and everyone else at the table is wearing a suit. Okay, then you haven't been in a managerial position. Because managers wear suits. Around here, we've got no suits. Pierce wears some tweed. It's a regular suited member of the faculty. The department have a jacket that they hang on the back of the door, and then when there's an important meeting, they sort of walk out the door, put the jacket on into the important meeting. Meeting finishes, jacket comes straight back off, back on the door. That's an interesting point, actually. Even within the math faculty. So in other faculties, when the chance comes up to be the head of the department of the faculty, it's basically like gladiators at the Colosseum. They throw all the professors in, and at the end, somebody's still alive, and that's the one that takes the cup and becomes the head of the department of faculty. In mathematics,
spin the bottle.
It's like passing around herpes or something. No one wants this shit. Absolutely no one. And it's sort of a thing of like, oh, come on, it's your turn to be the head of the department now. That is remarkably different from other disciplines. Nobody wants to be head of department. It's seen as a curse. Why? Because when you're head of department, you go to things like meetings and stuff, and you have to make decisions and all things like, what color should we make the carpet, and should we hire someone or not? Maybe you should Google them, now I wouldn't worry about it. That's too much effort and time. So all these sorts of things which take out research time. And in one department in New Zealand, where the headship comes with a 3-year postdoc on the side. You become head and you get a postdoc as a lackey next to you for the next 3 years. That lackey is your periscope down into the mathematical community, because you have to surface and deal with all the seagulls flying around upstairs trying to peck the resources off your department. And so this little postdoc comes to you once a week and tells you about new math that's going on in the world. That's what's required. Because otherwise we don't want these positions of leadership. They're not nice.
I'm sure you're wrong, and I'm sure in Parliament there are loads of mathematicians. So when it comes to Parliament regulating computing, AI, cryptography.
Of course.
There's a large body of people who understand this shit.
You couldn't be on a ballot paper if you didn't have, at least a master's in mathematics.
I think when Zuckerberg talked to the Senate, how many senators there were there who could pin him down about errors in code.
I want to
nail the fucker.
I want to get to this. That's actually a really interesting point. So, the tools that we produce aren't perfect as mathematicians. But we need to tell the people upstairs that. Because they see math and go, whoa, okay. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to touch it. I believe you. Whereas we see math as like, well, obviously, the limitations of this is even the most dim-witted individual with an advanced degree in, applied mathematics will clearly see that this model is only applicable in these circumstances. What the person on the other side is hearing, blah, 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 this math, blah, 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 blah. And so when something goes wrong, you get this great deferral responsibility. Because the mathematician says, well, it's their fault. I clearly stated, lemma 4.2, you can't use this if it's not, this is not immutable. And the politician says, he gave you the math. I mean, you can't blame me, I'm just using the math. So whose fault is it? It's their fault. You ever been to Venice? There are these signs to find Piazza San Marco. And there's one sign that says Piazza San. So there's usually a sign, and then it's got an arrow, and it'll either say that way or that way. But there's one particular street corner where it says Piazza San Marco, that way. T-shirt now. So you get this deferral of responsibility. It's their fault. How can we fix this? You're going to get the managers downstairs and teach them some integral calculus? Oh yeah? Good luck with that. Yeah, I struggle teaching vector calculus to my own 1A students. So what chance do you have? I passed 1A students. So you guys haven't come along. I'm sure you'll do really spectacular. I'm sure you'll break the trend of 200 years. Clearly, this is So, what chance do you have of teaching politicians our mathematics? And if we can't teach the politicians the mathematics, what other option is there? I'm sorry, it's time to take a seat at the tables of power. Go upstairs and explain to them what the hell is going on. That's follow you, sorry. But that's a politician asking a question. When the politicians ask questions, when they see a problem, I don't think they go out and say, hey, how was your weekend? Tell me about stuff. No, they see a problem and say, right, I'm stuck. I need to ask the chemical sciences mathematicians what's going on.
Who will cover my ass?
Yes.
They're asking questions to protect their asses.
They might be looking for
it's too late.
They might be looking for some insight, but generally they have a specific thing in mind. It's not the mathematicians coming up saying, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Because it's in lemma 4.2. Of course, it's obvious that you wouldn't use this in this particular way. Someone else. Or we just say, well, you. So, I have an example of this. Cedric Villani, who was a medalist, he joined French Parliament. It's possibly the only mathematician I know of who's in Parliament. I mean, there may be other examples, but there's very few. And once he joined Parliament, he actually was then commissioned to write a report on artificial intelligence and how it would impact French society, and he did a pretty good job. He assembled a very good team of experts and did a pretty good job. At the same time, the British government commissioned a report on artificial intelligence, and it was a stinking pile of shit. And actually, myself and my summer students have written a comparison report on these two reports. And the comparison is really like, basically every paragraph you say, the French team thought this and saw this and realized this, and the British were out to lunch at that point. They're just not, but like for everything. So, yes, having technical people up in a position of power makes a huge difference, and I urge you to go and read these two reports. UK Select Committee on Science and Technology, a report about artificial intelligence, and a report prepared by Villani on the future of AI. And there it's chalk and cheese. Because one was led by someone who knew what the hell's going on. I'm not saying that his report is perfect, but it is orders of magnitude more insightful than the tripe that the sort of British Select Committee produced. Then again, that Select Committee is the same people who said, yes, we realize there's bias in our algorithms. We need to write algorithms to find the bias in our algorithms. You're not qualified to do this. But really, they're not qualified to do it. They need our help. It's like the first half of your sentence made sense, the second half was stupid. Please stop and pay attention. When Zuckerberg at the front of the US Senate, one of the senators asked him, what's an algorithm? How is that even beginning to be a meaningful critique of what's going on? You know, this guy's running the world essentially from his dorm room basement. Okay, it's a very big dorm room basement. It's his dorm room basement. And a senator comes and says, what's an algorithm? That literally zero understanding of a platform and a mechanism that is now shaping and running substantial chunks of the country. If I was a US Senator, I'd want to know how Facebook is doing stuff. Because commerce is going through there, ideas are going through there, social networks are being supported there. It is becoming one of the key fabrics of US society. And so when you turn around and try to scrutinize it and say, well, what is an algorithm? That's a joke. It's not a joke to us. We know what an algorithm is. Oh boy, do we do. And if you don't, come to my lectures in part 2 and I'll teach you what an algorithm is. But the senators don't. GDPR. Written to... Yes. Any questions? I think that summarizes it. GDPR. Written to deal with today's privacy issues. In 1995. Who was born in 1995? Okay, so most of you got bored when someone said, hey, we should do GDPR. That sounds like a good idea. 23 years later, it's ready. Meanwhile, it was like, the world over here now. You know, personal data is not the big issue now. It's aggregated data. Inferring patterns from big data.
Let's regulate dial-up phone modems.
Yeah. We got this sorted. So given how far society's moved in the time it took us to build GDPR, where are the mathematicians and computer scientists lobbying, petitioning, and taking seats to build the next GDPR? Because that's the one we need, and we need it about 5 years ago. You want to trust a room full of lawyers? To do anything, really. You get an exponential decay in negative effect the more lawyers there are. You want to trust a room full of lawyers to develop regulation for something as important as online privacy, data protection, data inference, artificial intelligence. You want to trust lawyers for this? Lawyers who are telling us, we have to worry about digital signatures. By that I mean inserting a JPEG onto your .doc file because that's a signature. No, neither then. I mean, the only thing worse than having no mathematicians in Parliament would be having all mathematicians in Parliament. This would be spectacular. This would be an unmitigated disaster. I don't want that. I want them to work together. I want mathematicians to take a seat at the table, not to take the fucking table itself. Right? Take a seat, sit there, talk to the other people. And use sentences. Okay, if some of your sentences start with if, then, or else, then great. That's a good way to sort of convey technical ideas. But if all your sentences start with if, then, else, you're doing it wrong. Okay, we have to learn how to structure sentences to communicate with these people in the seats of power. To communicate with the senator who says, what's an algorithm? That's a challenge. That's not easy. How do you start explaining this to people who can't factorize quadratics? That's what you're dealing with. That's the level. And it's a hard place to get to. It's also a nasty place because it's confrontational. Politicians tend to argue with each other. Lawyers tend to argue with anything, from a paper cup to a judge. So, where do we fit in all that? We want to give a nice, balanced, technical argument, and the other person is going to yell at us more loudly. Now what do we do? Now we need to be trained. Because just like we might get up onto the seat of power and try and explain something, and we understand, high-level algorithms, there's no doubt on this, but on the flip side, when it comes to political maneuvering, we're going to get crushed. So it's actually harder than this, because here you're a mathematician talking to yourself. Here you're just talking to a brick wall. Here you're a mathematician talking to yourself. Here you're a mathematician talking to other mathematicians. These are all people you're happy to talk to. You've done it for a long time now. Here you're talking to lawyers, to lawmakers, to regulators, politicians, lobbyists, managers. That's a sacrifice. You might, if you're very lucky, be able to sort of keep foot in both, but it's going to be hard. Just like a head of department. How much math does a head of department do in their 5-year stint? 5-year sentence is probably a better way to describe it. Not a lot. Very little. It's often people at the end of their career. No one at age 35 wants to be head of department. Because at 40, you have to retire. But I'm talking about taking a seat directly within an institution. I want to go to Parliament and get a seat. I want to be in a company and get a seat. I'm not talking about external organisations. I'm not talking about some group over here having a conversation with Google. I'm talking about somebody in Google climbing a ladder and saying, I want to sit here. You have to listen to me because I have something useful and meaningful to say. And it's a very big sacrifice because the amount of technical work you'll be doing after that goes down substantially. You're not writing as much code anymore. There's only as many algorithms. And you're not doing as much algebra. Being what, sorry? They could just be power chasing. So to be a mathematician who will carry out the self-sacrifice to go up to level 3, but not be doing it for megalomaniac reasons. Okay, if you want to, run the world and own 6,000 Ferraris and whatever, that's a different story. But here I'm talking about the responsible mathematician saying, well, I've spoken to all the mathematicians, what's next? How about some non-mathematicians? So that's level 3, which I summarize as they need to think about what we're doing. So telling people who are not mathematicians what we're doing.